Alright, mathematicians, so in this video you're going to learn how to add and subtract polynomials with perimeter and so geometric figures, and then a little bit trickier way of how to set it up and how it may look on the EOC. But first off, I want to do a little bit of a refresher, and so I want you to find the sum or the difference of 1 and 2. So you should be able to know how to do these, so why don't you press pause and try 1 and 2 on your own. Here's what you should have gotten once you found the sum or the difference. Remember, when you have a negative outside the parentheses, you're going to multiply everything by a -1, and that's just going to change all these signs over here. So then, when you combine like terms, you should have gotten that answer. Over here, I only had to distribute this negative sign over here. You could have messed up right here. A negative times a negative should have been a positive, and then negative times a negative should have been positive over here. I always start with my highest exponents first to put them nice and neat in standard form. Again, you could have any of these answers in any order, but again, standard form is the nicest way for me to grade your paper. So if you have any questions on those, let me know. Otherwise, we're going to move on to some perimeter with some geometric shapes. So hopefully you remember perimeter from middle school. Perimeter is the outside of a figure, and that's when you add. So perimeter is when you add up the whole outside, okay? So if I wanted to find the perimeter of this triangle over here, if you wanted to do it the mathematical way, you would say t plus 10 plus t plus 10 plus t. And then you would combine like terms and see that you have 3 t's, see that you've got 2 10s, which would give you 20, okay? So 3t minus 20 would be the expression for finding the perimeter. Do you have to show all your work like this? No. If you can count up the t's and see there are 3, and count up the 10s and see there are 20, go for it. But that's mathematically the long way of doing it, okay? So why don't you try finding the perimeter of this rhombus over here, and then press pause and we'll go over the answer. Like I did up here, I did the most, as you would say, and I wrote all of my expressions out and added them all together, but you could have just added all your c's and then added all your numerical values, and you should have gotten 29c plus 13. Okay, so perimeter with geometric figures is pretty simple just because it's like combining like terms from module 1. So now we're going to jump to a little bit trickier, only because you have to create the problem yourself. So it says, given the following polynomials, answer the following questions. So I have all of these functions up here. I have f of x, I have g of x, h of x, and j of x. Okay? And it wants me to find the sum, which hopefully we know sum means to add. So I want to sum f of x and h of x. So I'm going to use this one, and I'm going to use this one over here. And so when you're summing, parentheses aren't that important, but we're going to write them anyway so we get in the habit of it. So I'm going to do that one plus my h of x one expression. Whoop. Okay, so when you find the sum, remember when you're adding you can drop the parentheses and just combine like terms. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, I'm going to start with my highest exponent first, which is not squared, it's actually a cubed right there. So that's the only cubed term, so I'm going to go ahead and rewrite that over here. Then I've got 2x squared terms. -2 plus 3 would be a positive 1x, so just 1x squared. 5 minus 5 is a 0, so I would be done. Okay, so that would be your final product for finding the sum of f of x and h of x. Okay, now the trickiest part is finding the difference. Okay, difference means to subtract. And it's all about how you set it up. I'm going to set up the most common mistake first. So g of x is that middle one, so 3 plus 7x plus 6x squared. And then j is this last one over here, 2 minus 8x minus x squared. Okay, the most common mistake is you don't put parentheses and you would put a minus sign right there. Okay, but if you would do that, you're only really subtracting that 2. Okay, if you put parentheses, then you are subtracting the 2, you're subtracting the negative 8, and you're subtracting the negative x squared. So if you don't put parentheses, your signs could be wrong. So when you multiply that out, it's going to change all of their signs like that. Okay? You would drop the first parenthesis and then go from there. Okay? So parentheses are super important when you are subtracting polynomials. Okay? All right, once we do that, I'm going to start off with my highest exponents. So I have 6x squared and x squared. 6 plus 1 is 7x squared. I'm going to bounce off to my x's, 7x, 8x, 15x. And then lastly, I have a 3 minus a 2, which would be a plus 1. Okay, so that would be our final answer to that one. So again, parentheses are the most important thing when you are adding and subtracting polynomials. So I want you guys to try these bottom two on your own. So simplify h of x plus j of x, and then simplify j of x minus f of x. Don't forget your parentheses, okay? So set them up and solve them. Press pause right now. First off, you started off with h of x expression here with the plus sign, and then you started off with j of x's expression. Since it was adding, I didn't even distribute, I didn't even drop the parentheses, I just went ahead and combined like terms. I started off with my highest exponent, which was negative 3x squared. Then I dropped down to my x squareds and got 2x. There was nothing to combine with the negative 8x, so I just brought it down. And then I had negative 5 plus 2, which was negative 3. Now again, you could have them in any order. You could have 2x squared minus 3x cubed minus 8x minus 3. But remember, for an easy check, to put it in standard form would be the easiest way to check it. Last one. This one was a tricky one because you did have to put a negative, and then you had to have the f of x expression and make it a negative 5 and a positive 2x squared. Again, I started with my highest exponents. 1x squared is the same as x squared. Nothing to combine with a negative 8x. 2 minus 5 was negative 3. Okay? So that is how you add and subtract polynomials, and that is great. And thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, you can practice.